for those of you who still stayed here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I will try to, first of all, overcome my jet lag, and after that, try to shift a little bit gears from the previous talk and go into a positive talk about health. And when Marcel first asked me to speak here at DLD, I got really excited for two reasons. Because it was DLDwomen. And the company that I started about a year ago down in Palo Alto focused not only on health and basically shifting and reinventing personal health, but it is actually focused on women. And we are starting with pregnant women and new moms, but expanding to women health in general. So what I'll tell you about today is about what we started, but I'll actually start with something else, which was the second reason that I got excited about when Marcel invited me to talk today. So about a year ago, I started doing research for my TED Talk about smiling. And when doing the research, I stumbled upon one very interesting research study from the University of California at Berkeley. And this research actually followed a group of women throughout their life, for about 30 years, and looked first into a yearbook that showed their pictures when they were young. And what's interesting about this study of these women was that by looking at the women's pictures, the researchers were able to predict not only how long-lasting and fulfilling their marriage will be, but also how inspiring they will be to others, and more importantly, how well they will score on standardized tests of well-being and satisfaction. And that's really important in health, and it's really important for women in particular, because women are the chief medical officer of the family. They don't only take care of their self and their children, but they also take care of their parents and their spouses many times. So health is really important, and positivity is very important as well. So what do women do when they want to learn more about health and be able to basically manage their health and well-being of their entire family? Well, they used to go to doctors. But what's interesting about that is that the doctor is not anymore the primary source for health information. Our doctor visits are becoming way shorter, and the health conversation is not anymore in the doctor's clinic. Where is the health conversation shifting? Well, it's shifting online, obviously. And when you look at the numbers, they're pretty staggering, right? So about 71% of all people in Europe use the internet before they even go to a doctor. In the US, it's even larger. It's about 80% of people. So you have a solution. When women are looking for health information, the place to go is probably the internet. And like about 1.2 billion people go to Google every month to find health information. So we got a great solution. But interestingly enough, about a year ago, Pew Internet published a very interesting study about people who use the internet for health. And the study looked into how satisfied, how happy people are with the health information that they found. And they asked the participant to answer from very helpful to not so helpful to no help at all, how useful and helpful the information they find on health on the internet. So how many of you think that no use at all, that 20% of all women that were interviewed answered no use at all? How many people think here that 20% said no use at all? Okay, how many people think 30% said no help at all? How about 40%? 40%? So the interesting thing is more than half the people that were interviewed, and remember, 80% of us use the internet for health, actually thought that we find no help at all with the information that we find on the internet. And actually, in chronic conditions, it's almost 59% of us. So there is a problem there. And what is the problem? So I've been in health for about 7 years, started doing research at Stanford, and then started a company that we grew to become one of the largest health sites on the internet. We sold it about a year ago. And we did a bunch of research of trying to understand where is this dissatisfaction coming from? What are the roots of it? And what we found in asking people about it are three things. First of all, the information that we found on the internet is not personalized. So if 10 of us go to Google and look for the same health information, so let's say an 83-year-old woman who unfortunately has cancer and a 7-year-old girl who's pretty much healthy and a pregnant woman who's 28 years old ask the same question, they're going to get the same answer, which makes no sense whatsoever, because if they went to a doctor, they'd probably get a very different answer, because health is very contextual, so that's a problem. The second thing is trust. health information on the internet is organized around articles, right? It's a lot, media sites are publishing health information. But where are the doctors that we used to trust? Where are the doctors that we used to see when we came to the doctor visit? They actually got marginalized because they're not natural writers. So we don't find the physicians, and the trust erodes, and that's a big deal on the internet that makes it less likely for us to use the information. And last but not least, it's not that engaging. All these health sites, you just go there, you read information, but it's not that engaging, and that's a problem too. So what you have today is a continuum all the way from going to your doctor, which is trusted, it's personal, but it's very costly, and it's not immediate, it's pretty scarce, and it's varied in quality. And on the other hand of the continuum, you have the internet, which is, it's free, it's immediate, it's completely unlimited access, but it's not that trusted, and not personal, and very unknown quality. What you deserve to have is a combination of the two in one place. You want your information to be trusted, personal, free, immediate, and have unlimited access 24/7. Is this possible? Is this too utopic? I think it's possible today. I actually published an article that came up online on Forbes about 3 months ago that talks about the new era of interactive health. And that's really interesting because I think that some forces that are coming together right now are enabling this change. So this whole notion of smartphones and tablets that many people talked about today, which I find is fascinating, gives us a lot of power in our hand. A computing device that helps us get oriented and be connected at all times. Combine this with data and the cloud, which now it's very easy to store information, it's inexpensive, and it's also much easier than it used to be before to process this information and personalize information to people. Together with the social conversation, and now we're used to using Facebook and Twitter, which was not the case about 5-6 years ago, but don't forget that our doctors are using Facebook and Twitter as well. They're not using it to practice medicine because they're concerned about other things, but they're using it for pictures and sharing things with their families and interacting with one another. So the user behavior is already there, and we have interactive physicians. And game dynamics, which get people engaged. And I'm sure that some of you are using or playing games on Zynga and Farmville and all these things that are very engaging for hours and hours and hours for millions of people. So what you need is some combination of these things that actually will give you information that is personalized to you, that is trustworthy and ubiquitous, and it is also engaging, and that's very important. It needs to be relevant to you and trustworthy and engaging. How do we do this? Let's start with personalization. You want to find health information on the internet that is about you, that it's as unique as you are, it's more relevant and contextual, like going to a doctor and meets your specific needs. And we're building that in HealthTap by building a very comprehensive knowledge base that enables us to understand where you are and creates for you a profile that is unique to who you are. What else do we want there? We want virtualization. So what we learned by looking at doctor visits and try to see what is it that is attracting us in the doctor visit, we realized that about 70% of visits are purely informational. So we go to the doctor, we ask a question, we get a response back, and that's it. We also realized that the other 30% of visits, about 60% of them is informational as well. And lo and behold, half of all this information is actually standardized. These are things that physicians actually repeat again and again and again, patient after patient, that has nothing to do with who you are, but it's related to the state that you are. So what if we took all this information, the standardized part of it, not the personal part, and virtualize it, and put it in the cloud under your physician? So it's not just a website, right? It's not just a static website, but it actually sits under what we call a virtual medical home of your physician, where they can store the answers and the tips and the information that they give patient after patient after patient, so they can go to you when you come to the doctor visit and spend more time with you as a human being. Wouldn't that be a more compelling opportunity? It will reduce time and cost, both to you and to your physician, and it will improve the quality of the care that you're getting, because rather than rushing through the visit and writing notes or remembering what the doctor says, you'll be able to go to their virtual medical home after the visit and spend time with it and learn it well and come to the visit and ask the question that you have in mind. What will it give us? If each and every one of your doctors will have a virtual medical home, it will give you better access and better relationship with your doctor. And we went into research on that as well. We found that 70% of us don't have a same-day access to our doctors, right? But we would like to have it. 51% of us wish we had known that our doctors had known us better, right? So we don't feel that the doctors know us really, really well. And 60% of us wish that we had more time to talk to our doctors. So virtualizing, creating a virtual medical home actually enables us to do all these things in the time that we have during the visit. And we have seamless and continuous 24/7 physician care available to us at all time from your own physician or from a physician you trust, which is a very different framework. Last but not least, gamification. Is gamification related to health? Come on, I mean, these are games online. What does this have to do with health, you ask? So this is our thesis on that. We came up with this game that we call Answers and Actions from Trusted Physicians. So the most basic interactions in health is around patient asking a question and physicians answering the question. That's more than half of health and medicine. What if we created a game around that, right? What we incentivize the physician to come into a new conversation, right, online, and basically share with each other this information in a way that is different than what it's done today. What if the physician would get more recognition? What if they get a better reputation? What if you can find your physician online according to the answer that they already answered to other people? Because then you can find them according to the quality of their answer rather than according to the decor in their wait room that you sometimes find in physician directories. So that's kind of interesting. What about relationship and trustworthiness? We think that that's important too, and that can be created in the game that we establish. Why gamify? Because it's lighter. It's easier for everyone to do. If you ask a question and doctors have an incentive to answer your question, and more than one doctor, imagine what would happen if you pulled out your smartphone, ask a question, and within 1 minute, you get 10 answers from physicians. Most of them are physicians that live around you, and some of them are available immediately to you, and it's already happening today. So on Health Tab today, if you ask a question, within the hour, you will actually get answers from physicians, not only from physicians that answered the question before, but actually you're going to get answers from physicians that are doing it live as you're asking the question. As more physicians are joining the game, you're going to get the answer faster. We have 1,700 physicians in just 8 weeks that joined the network. So it's more engaging, it's rewarding the right behavior by the physicians and by the patients. It encourages healthy competition by physicians because they want to compete among themselves on who would answer the best question, right? So who would be the best to answer the question among all physicians? So you have competition that is available there, which realigns incentive in the right way to create a meritocracy among physicians to answer better questions. Last but not least, it creates circles of trust, because what we enable now for the first time is for physicians to endorse each other. So think about it this way. What happened in the last week and a half since we enabled the endorsement, the physicians started actually endorsing other physicians about better answers. All of a sudden, you have a system by which physicians endorse others, and you know which of the answers are actually better. So not who answered the question nicer, which the only way that we as patients can actually judge the answer, but we actually have other physicians that vote on which answer is the best one. So now you can be able to be sure that when you ask a question in health, not only that you're going to get the answer very, very quickly from physicians that practice medicine next to you, so you can actually see them in the real world, but actually engage with them in the virtual world, but also that the answer is there and it's the best answer that you can get ever. And when it's a game, it helps us smile more often. So I think that's a great incentive, and if you want to know why smiling is good for you, I really recommend you to check out my TED Talk about the hidden power of smiling, because I talk a lot about that there. And what we offer at Health Tab is trusted, personalized, and engaging health information from your doctor. So welcome to the new era of interactive health, and I'm happy to answer questions afterward if you want. Thank you.
Thank you. And there is some challenge speaking at 4 o'clock. We only thought you could do that, and really I'm very happy. I wish that more of the DLDsters could see you, but I understand, just come. Sure. I understand also that Health Tab is at the very beginning.
Yep.
So I hope that maybe a year or two from now, when you can show more,
Sure.
We have you back and with a full audience, which you really deserve. And actually, this TED Talk about smiling, I really recommend to everybody. It's very, very interesting to watch. So, Ron, thank you. I wish you all the best for your startup. You're a serial entrepreneur, and it's a big era of new health you're just tapping. Thank you. Enjoy. So we have another, before, I know some of you wait for the Angels session, which starts in 10 minutes actually. So before that, or 15 minutes, we have Beatrix Förster, who is also working in New Health, and you come from Munich, do you? You have a microphone, or you speak here? So, Beatrix, you work on a very interesting issue we felt is very much fitting to DLDwomen because it's also in gender medicine, and your research, your company, is really at the edge of gender medicine, and maybe you would like to introduce yourself and the company now to us, and we're looking forward. Thank you.
Actually, I need this for the project. Okay, so I'm very happy that I have the possibility to talk about a topic that's relevant for all of us, which is gender medicine. And I'm accompanied by two kindergarten friends of my daughter who will support me explain the topic to you. They're named Annika and Oskar, so they're girl and the boy, and I think it's not difficult to recognize that they look pretty different. So the look is not the only thing that's different about them. If we could foresee into their future, we would also realize that they have completely different risks of developing different diseases. So for example, for Annika, it will be more likely to suffer from an autoimmune disease such as multiple sclerosis, whereas Oskar, for him it's more likely to get cardiovascular disease such as coronary heart disease or heart attack. And I think women and men are different. That's just human nature, and that's perfect the way it is. So that's just fine. The problem comes with the medications that we use to treat those diseases. Because most medications that are on the market right now that are developed on the prototype of drug development. The prototype is male, around 75 kilogram of weight and 35 years old. So why is that? I think you all remember, all know about the Contagram scandal in the 60s. So after this scandal, regulatory agencies restricted all clinical research to males. And all the dosage and all the usage recommendations that come with these medications are not really suitable for women, because women have a completely different distribution of fat in their body, different turnover rates of enzymes, so they really metabolize drugs completely differently. And for example, for cardiovascular diseases, there are even two problems. One problem is that the manifestation of the disease is different in women, so they have not the typical symptoms when they have a heart attack, so it's difficult to make the diagnosis. And the other problem is that standard medications, such as beta blockers, they're metabolized differently. So normally women have much less benefit and much more side effects. And so just to give you some numbers, there's a US-American study showing that 20 to 75% of medication that's given to patients is not suitable for them, and even 6% of hospitalization is due to adverse effects of medications. So I think that's a scary number. Nowadays, the attention to potential gender differences is an important issue also for regulatory agencies, and nowadays they highly recommend to include women in all phases of drug development. So there are several guidelines out there, and the aim is that the drugs are tested on a population that's representative of the population that the drugs receive when they're on the market. So just to resume this slide. So most drugs that are currently on the market work best in 35-year-old men, but they have a lot of problems in women. So now the problem is recognized, and of course, drug developers such as Miraculix or such as me, we want to make it better, of course, and learn from the mistakes of the past. And we also have to recognize it's not sufficient to have a good recipe. There are much more requirements that we have to fulfill. So there's the patient who is super well informed by the internet, as Ron said, and who really knows everything about the treatment options, about the disease itself, and he really demands a good medication that's really efficient with as little side effects as possible. Then there's a physician who wants to have maximum use out of the medication, wants to have a drug that's easy to apply, easy to understand, easy to handle. Of course, you have to comply with federal laws. And of course, somebody has to pay for it, and that's health insurances. And of course, they always want to keep the costs low. So like at the end of 2010, a new law was released called AMNOG that decides about, or determines the price of a medication. So pharmaceutical companies are not allowed to freely determine the price, but it's determined by the additional benefit that a new medication has above a medication that's already on the market. So as a drug company, you're also competing with generic drugs that are on the market that are developed much cheaper, and there's a high cost pressure on companies. You have to be really cost efficient in your development. And of course, there are new technologies that you want to integrate in your drug development. You always want to use cutting-edge technologies. You never want to work with outdated technologies. So when you're a drug developer and you start with your work, you have to consider all of these different requirements from different parties. And then the enterprise starts of clinical development of your drug. So there's a maze of all different kinds of clinical studies that you have to go through, and you cannot afford to fail in any of them, otherwise your drug is out of the race. And yeah, there's different things to say about clinical development. It's time consuming, so normally it takes about 7 years. It's risky, so of 10 drugs entering the phase, 1 makes it to the market. It's costly, so we at Trion, we are calculating about 50 million for the whole clinical development, but there are much higher numbers out there, up to $400 million that I've seen. And the other thing is that mostly innovation comes from small companies with a limited budget. So big pharma is normally not developing the drugs themselves. They're more buying them or in-licensing them at a stage where you can estimate that they will be successful. So clinical development is the most critical phase in drug development. It's time-consuming, it's costly, and it's risky. And the other thing is that most patients nowadays receive blockbuster drugs that are developed for huge markets. So they have efficacy around 30–50% only. They're just directed against symptoms. They're applied on the trial and error principle. They have a lot of side effects when you remember the long list on the package insert. So it's not really satisfying for patients to receive such medication. So instead of drugs developed by this one-fits-all principle, it's much more meaningful to work with drugs that consider personalized medicine. So personalized medicine is a new term that you hear everywhere nowadays. Personalized medicine itself is not a new invention. So every good physician who takes care of the patients, considers patients' family history and social environment does personalized medicine. So what we are talking about nowadays when we say personalized medicine is personalized therapeutics. And that's implements advances in life science technologies that allow us to generate diagnostic tests that can help physicians to make a diagnosis, so that the tests are complementing the traditional diagnosis. And so you can find subgroups in the whole patient population for which you can determine if a medication is working and if it's safe. And you can also generate tailored medications just for this subgroup. So I think a good example is Herceptin. I think you know about, it's a breast cancer. Herceptin in English. Yeah, it's a breast cancer medication, and it cannot use, it's not working on all breast cancer patients, but just on a subgroup that's expressing a specific gene expression pattern on the surface of the cells. So what was done is that a diagnostic test was developed to complement the medication. So you can just pick out this subpopulation for which you can be sure that the treatment is beneficial, and you don't need to treat patients that just have the adverse effects, but they don't have any benefit from the medication. So I think that in generally, personalized medicine will make drugs safer, more efficient, and definitely has the potential to also solve the gender problems, because gender, or man or women, is nothing else but just a subpopulation in this whole patient population. And I think there's some promising things going on in the Munich area. So life science community in Munich has, of course, recognized the great potential and the importance of personalized medicine, and has developed a new strategy to involve all relevant key players, to develop the region into a location of competence for personalized medicine. And it's called M⁴ because it involves four partners. So one is pharmaceutical companies, the second one is biotechnology or biotechnological companies, the third one is academic institutions, and the fourth is hospitals in the area, and it's all complemented by a cluster management. And I think the nice thing about this is that you have all four parties really to make personalized medicine successful. So you have academia, who's really looking for the mode of action for a drug, because otherwise you cannot do personalized medicine. If you really do not know how your drug exactly works, you can forget about this. The other thing is that the pharmaceutical companies, they can develop the therapeutics, and biotechnology companies, many of them can develop the diagnostic test that fits to this, and it's all done with physicians from the very beginning. So the users, actually, they're integrated in the whole drug development process from the very beginning. So I consider this approach very promising, and I'm really curious what gets out of it and what we can see in the near future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Beatrix. Thank you. Also, thank you to you that you spoke at this hour. I know 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock is not easy. I just said it, but I think it was really important that you came. Also, your research, your field is at the very beginning. You could say so. It's just at the stand. We at DLD, let's nurture it and be part of it from the beginning. And Munich, as you said, is a cluster of excellence here. So we're looking forward to hear more from you. And all of us who deal with disease at some point know how important progress in medicine is for us. So that's wonderful. Thank you. We wish you all the best for your company.